Hello everyone, this is Christian at Exiton Interactive, and by the time that we are done with this video, we will actually have, I think, pretty much completed the send screen. So if you can see, even before we start here, that I've adjusted it so that the message that starts off, or it has this darker background, starts off in light gray, same as the background instead of white. If we successfully make a request to the server, you'll see, of course, the message changes, but it'll come into green. We'll get a green background. I changed the, these SVG elements to white and cut the width in half, so I think it looks a lot better. We've also added in this timer element that appears at the top, which is basically just a line that animates down until the screen is removed. So it works for successful cases, and if we get an error from the server, everything goes into red, again white, and the timer. It's also important to note that we've made it so that the red and the green that's used within the send screen is the same red and green that's used within the rest of the authenticator. And as usual, you can find a link to the article for this video in the description below. All right, let's get started. So the first thing that we're going to do is add a timer element to our send screen. So I'm going to start by opening up the sendscreen.component.pug file. And we're going to copy in a line element within our SVG. So the line here, we're going to apply an ID to it using the timer ID property that we'll create shortly. We're going to place the line itself at the top of the screen, so Y1, Y2 of 2. It'll extend the entire width of the SVG with a stroke width of 4. Save that. We'll go into the sendscreen.component.ts file. And now, since we're going to be animating things, we need to set up our usual variables. So we'll need the path length and timer. It's going to be a number. It'll start off with null. We need the DOM element, so private timer DOM, HTML element, started off at null. We need to add or give it the ID. Come down here, or public get timer ID. Return ASSP-S-timer. Save that. Next, after view init, and I called it timer, so this dot timer DOM is equal to this underscore DOM reader dot find child by ID, this dot send screen DOM, this dot timer ID. I guess I'll need an as any on there since it's an SVG element. And then I need also to set the path length for the timer equals to this, calculate path length, this dot timer DOM, I believe. Maybe not. Oh, it's because I called an HTML element. Of course, it's what I get for trying to do it from memory. So it's an SVG line element. Next, we'll go down to the failure method. And what we want to do is we have this set timeout going here. Instead of doing that, I want to call a method that we're going to create shortly called this.animate timer. So we'll call that method. That method will take in a function, and inside that all we're going to do is pass in these, changing the strokes for the X mark to none for both components. We'll delete that, come down, and we will make our animate timer method. So private animate timer. It's going to take in a function, like I said. We're going to call it onHide. I'll make it optional. It's going to take 0 arguments and return nothing. So inside there, we're going to say this underscore timer DOM dot style dot stroke. We're going to set the stroke to be white. This dot timer DOM dot style dot stroke dash array. Oops, that's equal to our interpolation string here. And this dot path length timer. Because I'm lazy, I'm just going to stop typing this stuff and just copy it in. So we're going to animate the usual. We're going to take the stroke dash offset. In this case, though, we're going to go from 0 to path length. I want it to go backwards, basically. And it's going to take 3 seconds, easing linear, fill direction forwards. And, of course, the last thing, on finish, we're going to set the timer stroke back to none. And then we're going to call hide and pass in the onHide method. Go ahead and save that. Go back to the browser. Of course, the first time I ran through this, or the second time I ran through this, I made a mistake and it didn't work. So let's cross our fingers, hit send, get our X, and there's the timer. Might be hard to see in the video, but there's the timer counting down and it's hiding. Great. So now what we want to add is, hopefully, we don't always have a error. So let's go ahead and start handling the case of success. So let's go ahead and add to the bottom here. We're going to add another path. We're going to apply an ID from a property called checkmark ID. Let's go ahead and save that. Go back in the sendscreen.component.ts file and do the same thing all over again that we just did now. And we're going to create private checkmark DOM. It's going to be SVG path element, starts off null. Of course, we need its path length, so private path length checkmark. It's going to be a number, also start off null. We need the ID. Let's go down here. Public get checkmark ID. And that will be return p-c-mark. And next, ng after view init. Do our this dot checkmark DOM is equal to this DOM reader dot find child by ID. This dot send screen DOM and this dot checkmark ID. I think I need an as any on there. I think I forgot to mention though, we're not doing any lazy properties or anything for the timer or the check mark because we're going to need the timer for everything, and hopefully at some point in time we'll actually need the check mark because they'll succeed either registering or logging in or whatever. And we also need to calculate this dot, oh, calm down, path length check mark. This dot calculate, come on. This dot check mark DOM. All right, so let's do some modification of failure. So inside of failure, we have this little animate local function. Well, we're going to need to do this animation for a check mark as well. So what I'm going to do is just, what am I going to do? Let's just take, I'll take this stuff out. We'll delete this. In the end, what we're going to do is we're going to make a method. I called it this dot animate path is the method. Animate path. And animate path is also going to take in, let's just put it here, a stroke, which is equal to, in this case, red. So we're going to put in the stroke here at the end. Stroke and stroke. We're going to make a success method here in a second, but let's go ahead and create our animate path method. Copy in all that stuff that I had pasted. Let's see, what do I need? What do I need? So we're going to pass in an element, an SVG element. We're going to pass in the length, the duration, and a stroke, which we're going to put here. And of course, this is the same animation that we were doing previously in the failure method. All right, so now we're free to make our success method. Same as failure, we're going to pass in a message, which is going to be a string. And save me some typing. So we'll set the message equal to the message. We'll have a same duration. Again, stroke color. So let's create this. We'll call the animate path method with the checkmark DOM, checkmark length, main duration. Once it's finished running, so once the animation is over, we'll set the checkmark DOM stroke back to none. Save that. Take a look at the browser here, make sure everything's still working correctly inside our SVG. We should now have our check mark. It has the ID on it and stroke green, so it's there. Let's go back to Visual Studio. What we need to do now is to have it so that our server can return an OK status, a success. So right now all I can do is error. So we'll go back to the pages, account folder, login.cs, html.cs file. And of course the reason why we cannot get a success message is because we're adding these model state errors to every request. So let's just add them conditionally. We'll just say if the username is equal to variation of my name. Of course I like everybody to type my name in as many times as possible. So we'll save that. We'll also return back to the authenticator.component.ts file. Go back down to the login method because we do have to tell it to do something if it's successful. So we'll say success screen.success, and apparently like an idiot I've made that to be private. Yep. So that should of course be public. Save that. I think it's already rebuilt for me, but let's just rebuild the solution. Head back to the browser, refresh. All right. So now let's go ahead and check the failure still works. It did what it's supposed to do. Let's make a successful one. Hit send. Got our green. Timer comes up. Login was successful. Great. All right. So it is working. All right. So now, I think I've mentioned it plenty of times before. I like to change things up. And, the way we have it now is adding color to these SVG elements to say whether it was successful or not. What I like to do, and I changed my mind, and what I want to do is have a colored background, and then I'll just have those SVG elements animate in white. So let's do that real quick. Back to Visual Studio and back to our sendscreen.component.pug file. So back to the template. To do this, what I'm going to do is create or add a div in here. So we'll have a div, class of send-screen-background. We'll also add an attribute to it so we can animate it. We'll add the ID to it so we can animate it. Save that. We will go into the sendscreen.component.scss file. We'll add a little bit of styling to this, because I want that background to cover the entire send screen. So the send screen background will position absolute, give it top left or top right, bottom and left of all zeros, and z index of -1 to push it behind everything. Save that. Back to the sendscreen.component.ts file, and back to the top. So we'll get ready to do our animation. So we'll say private, maybe we will, background DOM, and that's an HTML element. Starts off null. We need to go down to our ID area, public get background ID, return ASP-S- crazy background just to make it hard to type. Go to the ng after view init, So we'll have this underscore background DOM is equal to this DOM reader dot find child by ID. This underscore send screen DOM. This background ID. Perfect. Go down to the failure method here, and instead of, what are we going to do here? We're going to get rid of this stroke property here. Actually, we're going to take off the stroke from the animation, animate path. We won't pass in the stroke anymore. We'll take care of that shortly. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to move main up to the top here, just it's driving me insane there. And we'll say this dot animate background, which is of course something we need to create. We'll pass in the color that we're going to use. And then once the timer is done, we'll come down here and we'll say that the background color for the background should be set to transparent once its send screen is off screen. We'll go down to success, do something similar, get rid of the stroke. Don't need the stroke anymore. Move that up to the top. Actually, we'll put that here and we'll say this dot animate background. And this one will be green. Perfect. So let's get rid of our errors real quick. Animate path. We're going to just say the stroke is going to be white. No longer take in a stroke property or argument. And we need to make our animate background. If you guessed it, I'm just going to cheat and copy it in. You would be correct. So for the animate background, all we're going to do is take the background DOM, set its opacity to 0 to start with. Background color will be set to whatever color is passed in. We'll animate opacity from 0 to 1 over 1 second, and of course just in the forward direction. Let's go ahead and save that. And we should actually be able to tell that stuff is working now. Let's go ahead and get an error going on. So it's in white. The background animates in, phase in red. Let's do a successful one. So it comes in green, check marks white. We are on our way. All right, so now if you've been saying there's a lot of color going on in this thing here, and we've already defined colors. We have some green color defined, we have a red color defined. Why aren't we using it? And we are just about to start using it. So the first thing that we're going to do is go back to the authenticator folder. I'm going to right click and choose add new item. We're going to create a style sheet, so an SCSS file. I'm going to call it underscore variables. Save that. I'm going to copy in the colors. Save that. Actually, the colors, so that colors come from, let's open the authenticator.component.scss. It's just these colors, so I'm cutting them out of there and putting them in the other file. And now we'll just import the variables file that we just created. Save that, and we can close it. So now it knows the colors again. So the next thing we want to do, we'll deal with these here in just a second. Close the login, and we're going to the sendscreen.component.pug file. So I'm going to do a little bit of styling for those, for the indicator elements. So I'm going to put a class on them. Oops. And the class is success, is sf-indicator. I was using it as success failure-indicator. So we have it on the xmark main, supplemental, and the check mark. So I'll save that. Go back into the sendscreen.component.scss file. Before I forget to do it, let's go ahead and import the variables file that I just created. And if we go to the send screen background, the way that we're going to tell what color, of course, to put on it is by adding a class in our TypeScript file. So if it has a valid class, we'll use the valid color for the background color, invalid color. And another thing I forgot to do, So the run through for this was to modify the SVG. I want to go ahead and make the stroke width for those indicators 10. It's basically half of what it is, or what it was before I added that. We'll save that and go back to the sendscreen.component.ts file. Go down to the failure method, and I'm going to create a class here, const background class. It's going to be invalid. So the background class, what I'm going to do is, instead of sending in a color, of course, to the animate background, we're going to send in that class. And then once we're done, it's off screen, we're going to use the class list to remove the background class. Do the same thing for success. Background class, and in this case valid. We'll pass that in. Background class. Come down here and wait a second. Whoopsie. So I was not supposed to. No, that's right. So success. Did I not remove the? I guess I never removed the color from the background in the success method, which is what I was supposed to have done. So we forgot to do that. But that just means we're free to do this all together now. So background DOM, remove this background class. We'll go down to the animate background method. We'll call this CSS class. And so instead of the background color being set, we say class list.add CSS class. And I guess in my notes is when I change this. No, that should be all right. Let's go ahead and save that. Now we'll cross our fingers. Hope everything's working again. Hit send. Turns red. I like it better in half the width that it was. Let's do a successful one. Turns green, check mark, timer. All right, everything's working good. So if you look now, though, if you look at the message before it changes into green, it's very, it's hard to read. It's not very much contrast between the light gray and the white. So let's start, let's handle dealing with that. One thing I want to change, though, while I'm thinking of it, is I want the the messages to all be on one line. So let's change the wording here for that, at least on the same or one line for the default font size. So let's go to, what's that? Authenticator.component.ts, and all we have to do is just modify that message there. So instead of this, we're just going to use another message, error using provided username and password. Save that. Let's go back to the sendscreen.component.pug. What I'm going to do is separate out the message div. I'm going to add another div in here. We'll call it, or give it a class of message text, and have all the information applied to them. We'll go to the sendscreen.component.scss, and I want to change the padding here. So it's from 16. What we'll do is we'll say include padding, and that's going to be, I think I'm basically using half the padding, top and bottom, that it was before. And I actually don't care to set a padding for left and right, so we'll just put no. I do want to set the color to be light gray instead of white. Font size is there. Let's do it this way. Oops. I don't need that color again. Well, let's just keep it with the notes, put the color down there. So we'll set the background to dark gray, font weight to 600, which is bold. And then we'll add in a little bit more. So the message text. So if the message text and it has a class invalid. Make its color invalid. Valid is valid color. Okay. Save that. Head on back over to the sendscreen.component.ts file. If I go down here to the failure, thought I was so clever, right? Using a setter for this, setting the message and then playing the animation. Well, it's no longer useful to me. I need to do more than just do that. So I'm just going to cut the contents from the message setter and go ahead and delete that. And actually, let's just go ahead and create the method that we're going to use now. Private set message. Of course, going to take in a message string, but we're also going to take in the class, CSS class, also a string. And so what we want to do is the same animation. This is just the contents from the message setter. And instead of, what I need to do is down here, what we'll do before we set the actual message itself, we'll just say this dot message dom dot class list dot add CSS class. Save that. I guess I didn't need to save it yet. So let's go back up to failure. Of course, it's complaining here, and all we're going to do now is to say, well, let's just copy it. So set message. So this dot set message, pass in the message, pass in the background class. That works. And we'll come down here and add in the removal of that class. So message DOM class list remove background class. We'll go down to success. Replace it with the call to set message. And the same deal, remove the class afterwards. Let's go ahead and save that. Cross our fingers one more time. So we can see the background behind the message is, darker gray, and it's not white, it's this light gray. Let's do the error. So error, the text is in red. Everything seems to be working. Send. All right, everything using the same green, message in green, same green as specified here. So I think everything is working the way that it's supposed to be working. Next video, probably we will add the endpoints for everything else. The forgot username, forgot password. I think register point is already there, but we'll add a little bit more to it. And then add whatever else I can think of to make sure we have a good amount of time to it. Thank you for taking the time to watch our video. I know that your time is valuable. If you liked the video, please subscribe to our channel and click the thumbs up button, as well as share the video with your friends. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please leave them in the comments section below. And once again, thank you, and I will talk to you in the next video.